what's going on for you and how could I help?
Well, first of all, thanks for the class because I've been looking through a lot of the material already and used some of like the free resources that you had beforehand, and it was super helpful in my prep. I think I told you this before that I studied, took the test a couple times, applied, and now we're starting this whole thing again. So I'm kind of just trying to not start from zero, but start fresh again since it's been about 8 months since I took the test. So yeah, I'm kind of just starting fresh right now, or what feels like fresh.
Cool. Well, I'm glad the resources are helping and I'm glad that you're diving back in. So what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
I feel like, or at least from what I remember before when I started to study, a lot of my issue was just getting really anxious and nervous come taking the practice test, which I'm sure like, I guess a lot of people have that issue too. But I feel like when I'm practicing on my own time, untimed, like I feel like I was doing okay. And then get into like test mode and just get like super anxious and, trying to figure that out. So I guess that's kind of, I'm trying to be more mindful this time around when I'm taking the exam. I'm starting the logic game section today and just trying to approach it differently and more relaxed. So I guess that's usually like my big issue when I'm studying.
Sure. I hear you. It's real. And a lot of people do face it. What's your target test date?
So I'm going to be taking it in November. So I think that's November 14th of this year.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a good solid 3 months to get back and study. Studied a little bit beforehand, but wanted to give myself a break in between exams. So yeah, November's it.
Okay. And what kind of timeline do you have between now and then? What's your schedule like?
So I'm following the day-by-day plan that you provided for the 3 month/12 week one. So today's day one, so I'm starting on that. And hopefully it's going to take a lot of work, but I'm hoping between here and the exam day, I can at least get to a 160.
Nice. Yeah. I don't see any reason why not. What other obligations do you have in terms of work or school or family, anything else that you've got to be working on in the meantime?
Yeah, so I'm still working full time, still working 9 to 5. But I've been working remotely just like, a lot of people have. So that's been kind of one pro. So I'm still working 9 to 5, but when hours are slow, I try to fit in my studying during the workday and then afterwards.
Nice. I mean, so you've got more time to devote to this than a lot of other people do.
Yeah, definitely. And quite honestly, the not having to commute back and forth to work saves me at least 2 hours a day. So that's like a good 2 hours of studying that I can commit.
Yeah, a lot of benefits of working remote. A lot of benefits there. And so you're just starting off, you said you're just at the very beginning of the schedule now.
Yeah. So I broke some day one up into a few days just so I can get the intro videos, go through those. So yeah, today's day one. I've done about half the questions so far. And I remember a lot more about the games than I thought I did. Like, to be honest, I feel like I've had forgotten everything, but things are slowly starting to come back to me.
Yeah. So that's great. I mean, you're not starting from scratch. You're getting a refresher, and then you'll be able to take yourself up to the next level from there.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. I realize I just need a lot of practice.
Yeah, well, you'll have the time to put it in. So all good news from what I'm seeing. So when you talk to me about anxiety, nerves around the test, what comes to mind? What do you imagine as like a worst case scenarios or why those might happen?
Yeah, I think in terms of the exam, I guess it's just knowing like what the exam means for me in terms of the application process. And, there's only so much you can do in that regard. But yeah, I guess it's just taking an exam and thinking, if I don't score in the 160s, I can't get into like X school or Y school, and that kind of cycle just repeating itself. So the bigger implications of the exam, I guess you could say.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the exam's important. I'm not going to lie, but yeah. It's offered nearly every month now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't feel as nervous as I did last time around. Still some nerves, but I feel like now that I've sat down for the exam twice, canceled one score, recorded another score. And so I feel like now the nerves aren't there as much. And who knows how November is going to look like in terms of like whether it's a flex or not. I want to assume it's a flex, but I'm not sure. But
same.
I can't see it being in person, but I feel like having gone through it a couple times has made me like less nervous about it now.
Good. I mean, that's really the exposure is the best therapy there. So you've been through it. You've sat for it twice, you said. Once canceled, once kept. You've got November as well. And listen, I mean, even if November didn't go the way you wanted it to, there's still January. And obviously January is a bit later, but then that gives you about 2 months to give it your all if you wanted to on top of what you're already doing. And so if you could get even a few points more, it'd be worth waiting a little bit longer. Not that we want you to do that, but if you have to, it's an option.
Yeah, definitely. That's something I was considering too. I forget what the new what LSAT policy is now on how many times you can take it within one academic year.
It's 3 times in one academic year.
Okay, it's 3 times at once. I forget, the canceled exam does not count for that? I don't think.
It does, but the new rate take policy is not retroactive.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that would leave room for January if necessary. Yeah, definitely something to consider. Hopefully, I only have to take it one more time because, like, I don't want to take it again. But that's definitely like a good option to have it, especially if I can make some like room for improvement in those 2 months.
Yeah, but you've got 3 months now ahead of you. You've got 9 to 5, no commute, working remote, maybe some time during the workday, time up to 8:59 a.m. and 5:01 p.m. You've got time on those ends as well. So there's a lot you can do, and you just joined the course and you're just at day 1. So there's plenty of room here. I just see a lot of space for you.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm trying to approach it. I know my biggest, I think, struggle with it is definitely the games, but I know it's the easiest to learn. From what my past exams were, games were my hardest, just the time crunch kind of freaked me out. Reading was my easiest one. And then, yeah, probably I'd say reading, logical reasoning, and then games were like my order of difficulty.
Yeah, that's good news. I mean, games are the most improvable.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to approach it with that kind of mindset of just not, getting too anxious about it. But I know a lot of people must feel the same way. So it's just not just me in the boat.
No, definitely not just you. And I've thought a lot about the anxiety, the stress, the nerves, the test day anxiety, all of that. And so I've put some resources in the course about that. And I've actually partnered with a yoga instructor. And next week, we've got a new student orientation, which you should definitely attend. And I'm also having the yoga instructor do a light yoga and meditation session that night too.
No, that's awesome. I've been, from your recommendation from the blog, trying to incorporate more mindfulness meditation into my life and into my daily routine to try to get me, in the mindset to take the exam.
Nice, cool. So integrate that. Just even 5 minutes a day makes a big difference there. And then I'm sure the yoga instructor will have some ideas too.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. That's a nice holistic approach.
Yeah, sure. I'm all about that.
Yeah, I guess one question that I did have is when I'm just looking at the logic games right now. I've just made copies of it so I can like keep working and not like write on my book. I guess one question I did have as I'm studying and as I kind of start this again is when I'm doing the logic games, how many times do you recommend redoing the same one? I think I used to do the same one about 4 times, but I don't know if that was like too little or too many, or what's a good happy medium in between.
Yeah, there's value to redoing games, but I wouldn't want you to necessarily feel the need to redo every single game. Redo the ones that gave you trouble, redo the ones where you think there could be a more efficient approach. If you find that you're brute forcing things a lot and just trying out all 5 choices, drawing out 5 different scenarios, there's probably a more efficient way to go about it. And so that's a case where I would redo it or look at explanations if necessary.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because, trying to make sure that I use my time most efficiently, but I know that redoing it is helpful. But yeah, I didn't want to like redo every single game that you plan either. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that was my big question because I want to make sure that I'm redoing the questions, but not redoing them from memory, like redoing them like actually with, like the actual skills and techniques.
Right. And so I would take maybe a couple days to look at it with a fresh perspective.
Okay.
And look to see, is there a new way you're approaching it? If you're doing exactly the same thing, then there's probably not a whole lot of value that you're getting out of it. But if you see something new, then that's key. And that's where, of course, explanations can help. So a lot of times students will just do the rules, do a minimal main diagram setup and jump right into the questions. And when I work with students one-on-one, I'll say, hold up, let's stop right there. Let's take a moment and pause. What inferences could you make before diving in? Maybe connecting two different rules, or maybe even making multiple main diagrams. And so that moment of pause to check on that is really important. And then if you're just consistently not seeing that sort of thing, then start using my explanations to help show you what it can look like. And they're linked at the beginning of the schedule, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember I saw those for the games. I know like sometimes my issues, I feel like I make most of their inferences, but not all of them. And then I miss the ones that are like key to, I guess, like the last couple questions of the game. So I guess it's just taking not more time, but more careful time to inferences.
And it'll come with practice though. I mean, don't expect yourself to see all the inferences up front at the beginning, and don't expect yourself to be able to do all of them the way that I'm doing them in my explanations, for example. I've had the chance to do these games 10, 20, 30 times or more through my own teaching. But looking at it fresh, nobody's seeing all the inferences all the time, not even someone like myself. It's through the repetition that and the previous exposure to other similar games that helps you see that sort of thing. So you'll notice a progression over time as you get into them more, but don't expect it all on day one.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I'm waiting for them to come to me, but that's good advice. I also had a question about the actual exam come November. With the way things are progressing or not progressing, in terms of whether it would be an actual LSAT sitting down or an LSAT flex. I would assume or lean towards it that would be a flex, but in terms of when it comes time for me to take practice tests, would you suggest practicing as if it were going to be a flex, so 3 different sections? Or do you think it would be more beneficial to study as if it were a full exam, or not a full exam, but a regular exam?
Yeah, sure. So if I were being totally prudent, I would say practice with 5 sections.
Okay.
But the good news is that you're not yet at the point where I think it makes sense for you to do full-length exams. I would start with you building the foundation. Then approximately 6 weeks before, LSAC should make an announcement about whether it'll be flex or regular. So between now and that 6-week mark, you probably shouldn't be doing a whole lot of full-length 5-section timed exams anyway, even if it were in person. So I would say focus on building the foundation, then individual timed sections. Then I would do a handful of 3-section exams up to that 6-week mark. And at that 6-week mark, then LSAC will announce almost certainly it's a flex, in which case you would keep doing 3-section exams, or alternatively, if they said really long shot it was in person with 5 sections, then you could start doing 5-section exams to work on endurance. But the good news is that I don't think it should affect your prep either way at this point, whether it's flex or not. And I do, by the way, think it'll be, at this moment, early August, 95% chance flex.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense in terms of like my prep too. Like I'm not too worried about taking the full exam yet, but I guess when the time comes, like you said, they'll hopefully have an answer on how that's going to look like.
Yeah. And we should hear on October any day now.
Yeah, that's true too. In my mind, I already forgot the October exam existed, but waiting to hear from October too.
If they said October was in person, which I'd say it's 99% going to be flex, if they said that was in person, that would radically change everything, but I don't see that happening. And I think that either this week or next, they're going to tell us, probably this week.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely puts things into perspective for sure. I really forgot the October exam even existed because that was not an option in my mind, but
right. No, and I'm glad you're allowing yourself the time for November. I think it's going to really help you maximize your potential.
Yeah, thanks. I made the mistake before of trying to do the exams back to back, like in the past year or so, and that did not help me out. So I was like, I need to take real time to, everything to sink in a little bit. Cool. Fantastic. Anything else for today? So far, nothing too crazy since it's day 1, but yeah, I think you pretty much answered all my questions. I appreciate you taking the time to help me out and talk with me. Yeah, of course, Michelle. My pleasure. We'll keep at it, and I'll see you in class soon. Please join the orientation next week. If any other questions come up, let me know. Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Of course. Take care. Cool. Bye. See you. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.